Welcome back to the manor. Julian McBain here, and we are hunting Kerberos because Mayhem. It's still technically going on, but I'm done with Mayhem for the year, or for Summer Mayhem anyway, because I don't have enough time to do another 10-hour run. So yeah, before we get started, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the manor. Make sure you take a moment and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. And if you haven't subscribed yet, let me know why you haven't subscribed yet. That would actually be really useful, because then I can make better content. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today is I'm not going to directly quote the 10x rule, but I am going to take one of the chapter titles and we're going to talk about it. And the chapter title, I believe it's chapter 5, is There's No Shortage of Success. And I talk about success a lot on my channel, but there was a notion in here that I really wanted to hone in on and talk about, because I think it's something that most people, they make a fundamental mistake around this concept. And don't get me wrong, I've done it too. And there's a couple of things that are built into it that I realized I was doing recently because of all of the things that 2020 has just 2020'd. 2020 is going to end up being a verb, or it's going to be in the dictionary. 2020 adjective, dumpster fire, or a synonym for dumpster fire or shit show. But but there's no shortage of success. Okay? If you aren't successful, it's because you're not doing the things that will bring you that success. And again, I've said it before and I'll say it again, success looks differently for everyone. What I see as success will not be what you see as success. You know, what I see as success aren't what my students see as success. You may not even agree with what my vision of success is. Because for me, success means being wealthy. Wealthy to the point where I don't have to continue trading my time. I can do with my time what I want. I'm not ashamed to admit that. It might take me my whole life to get there because I made a lot of mistakes when I was a kid. I say when I was a kid, when I was in my 20s. But it doesn't mean that it's not my goal. And the idea is there's a scarcity idea, a scarcity mindset. Because realistically, there is scarcity in our lives. You know, that's why we have a market system instead of having a system where, like in Star Trek, where you don't have to get paid for your labor because everything's provided. There is scarcity in the world. But there is no scarcity of success. You can't hoard success. My success does not affect your success, and your success does not affect my success. And I think this is something that a lot of people get wrong because they always tie success to money. And to a certain extent, they should. Because it's the most obvious form of success, right? It's the most obvious way to see how successful a person is. Because people seem to think of money as an object. But it's not. Money is a measure. It is a way of measuring value. And the thing about measuring things is you can't hoard it. You can't hoard money, you can't hoard success. What you can do is you can create more of it. Now, I'm being a bit hyperbolic on the money scale because, yes, if you just keep creating money, then you end up with inflation, and inflation is bad. But the difference between the way, I'm trying to think of the best way to put this, because you put money into the system, right? So let's say you're a business person, you own a company, and you deposit your revenues for the day. Let's call it $10,000, okay? And you deposit that in the bank. The bank then turns around and lends out 8,000 of it. How much money is now in the system? 18,000. The 10,000 you deposited and the 8,000 they lent out. So see, the reason they can do that is because the money itself is only a measure of value. It's not really, it's more of a concept than it is a physical thing. Because it's written down, it's paper. You know, there's scarcity in real estate. There's only so much property to be owned. At least until they decide that you can actually own Mars and the Moon. Which, in theory, you can. That's kind of a weird situation. There's a treaty about it, and not everyone signed on to it. But I'm digressing. I'm starting to tangent. Because people seem to think that there's scarcity in money, they always seem to think there's scarcity in success. And this is a fundamental misconception. First off, there's no limit to the amount of money that any individual can earn. There's no limit to the amount of success any individual can earn. Both are derived from what value you bring to other people. And once you figure that, whoa, no, I don't want to fight that one. Once you figure that out, you can start to formulate what it will take to get you where you want to go. Now, I'm going to focus more on economic success than I am on like hobby success or relationship success here, because I'm a money guy. That's what I work with all the time. It's easy for me to enumerate. But the actions themselves, the amount of action necessary, isn't different. If you want to have a successful relationship, you have to dump energy into your relationship. If you want to have a successful hobby, you've got to dump energy into it. I want to be one of the best fencers in the world. I got to dump energy into it. Now, right now, it's really hard to do that because we're under this COVID thing and no one can do anything. Or more accurately, I want to be one of the best fencing instructors in the world. Because there's a difference. You know, being a member of the SCA, there was a guy who taught. And he was not a knight, because he did heavy lifts, so they become knights. But out of 16 students, 13 of his students were knights. So despite the fact that he had not been deemed to have enough skill to be a knight, he was basically a knight maker. If you learned from him, odds were you would become a knight. And so when it came to the attention of the crown that this guy had been responsible for the creation of 13 knights and was not one himself, they corrected that. See, that's being a successful instructor. It's not the MacGuffin necessarily that I'm after. I want to see my students get the MacGuffin, the cookie. I like calling them cookies. Or friends of mine that I know like calling them cookies because they traded services in a competition for a cookie. And the way that story starts out is, first off, it was a really good cookie. But no, there's no shortage of success. You create success. You create success by the actions that you do. And the only way that anyone can take from your success is if they're trying to scam you. No. Now, you might be competing for a position, or you might be competing for a customer, for a contract, for a job. But just because someone else gets it doesn't mean that you have failed. It just means that that wasn't the opportunity for you at this time. You have to go out there and find the opportunity that will work for you. You know, recently I interviewed for a job. I did not get the job because someone else was better qualified for that position. I understand that. I have no problem with it. It might just be that they interviewed better. Sometimes that happens. I know for a fact I'm not great at interviewing. It's just the way it is. My tendency to tangent includes going into interviews, which is unfortunate for me. That's something I've been working on, and I will be more successful when I accomplish that goal. But just because someone else was more successful getting that job does not mean that I do not have the opportunity to get the same level of success. Maybe that wasn't the track for me. That wasn't the opportunity. I really hope I'm not DCing. There we go. You just have to be willing to go out there and do it. And the key point to that is to come up with goals. You can't succeed without goals. And there was a time when I was writing down my goals at least once a week. And I have failed to do so since the beginning of the year. And that's shame on me, right? I should be doing it. Technically, you should be writing your goals down every day. Twice a day if possible. I'm not joking. When you do that, then you're focused on them. When you're focused on your goals, you are more likely to achieve them. See how that works? It's all a matter of mindset. You look for a goal, you focus on the goal, you achieve the goal. If you don't, then obviously you're not going to get where you're looking to go because didn't really matter enough for you to focus on it in the first place. You're wasting your own time doing shit like that. So you have to ask yourself, what is it? The first thing you need to determine is, what is it that is success to you? Because it's different for everyone. For me, it comes with a certain level of wealth. It also comes with a certain number of subscribers on this channel. 13 million. If you have 13 million subscribers, you're doing pretty good in ad revenue. So, with one will come the other. Not that I ever expect this necessarily to become my primary profession, but I pump enough energy into it so that even as a secondary profession, I will be successful in it. And yeah, look at the energy I pump into this. I pump as much energy into this as I do into my first job, as I do into being a father. Because it's important. It's important that I find that success to me. I want to make 13 million subscribers. You know, when fencing opens back up, I will pump as much energy into that as I do into the other things. I want to be one of the best fencing instructors in the world. But it goes beyond that, because I also want to be one of the best mentors. And I mentor through martial arts. And that's where that comes in. So these are all of the things that I want. Take a moment, think about what you want, and drop it in the comments section. What are your goals? What would success look like to you? And it doesn't matter what it looks like to you. From an it does matter what it looks like to you, but what I'm saying is, it doesn't have to look like what it does for me. You know, for me, being successful means having 13 million subscribers on YouTube, being one of the best fencing instructors in the world, and having 10 million US dollars in cash and assets. Okay? To me, that's success. And maybe I'm setting the bar too low, maybe I'm setting it too high. I don't believe there is a such thing as too high a bar for success. If you're gonna go big. It's much better if you miss hitting a high mark than a low mark. You know, if you set a goal, right? And the goal is enormous, and you miss that goal by 10%, it's a hell of a lot better than if you set a goal half as big and you still miss it by 10%. You are likely to pump in enough energy to miss it by 10% either way, but you achieved a hell of a lot more missing 10% of the bigger goal than you did the smaller goal. See how that works? You know, decide what you want out of life, and it doesn't matter if it's a house in Cancun, a boat, or just a new car. But think of it this way, and because I'm a little less stressed on it than Uncle Grant is, and I call him Uncle Grant because it's what he wants everyone to call him, Uncle G. Because in his opinion, everyone should be striving for the 10 million, you know, the hundreds of millions of dollars and the huge, because he lives large. He went from like bottom of the barrel, drug addict, alcoholic, you know, all of this shit, just terrible life. And now the man operates something like $10 billion. He operates some 7,000 apartment units. That's what he manages. 7,000 apartment units. Think about that for a minute. That's a lot of homes. Now he doesn't own them all. Investors own them. He takes 1%, which doesn't sound like a lot until you're operating 7,000 units. Right? See, that was his success to him, is running businesses. He also runs a couple education companies, like sales education, shit like that. He built his success because he found what ball he was aiming for, and he reached for it. If to you, success is owning a home with a white picket fence and 2.5 children, first off, I'd encourage you to choose either 2 or 3 because 2.5 could get awfully messy. But if that's your goal, that's a worthy goal. Go for that goal. Have other goals too. We should all have more than one goal. I at minimum keep 9 goals on the line whenever possible. One of my goals for this year, in fact, I had to cross off because currently it is now literally impossible to achieve. And I am realigning myself to figuring out how to get as close to what that goal was as possible. And I think I know I can make it relatively the same, but it won't be the same. But it doesn't matter because I understand that, okay, that didn't work out. How do we make it work? How do I continue to do the thing that I love to do? How do I continue to serve the people that goal was meant to serve? I think we got a graphical glitch there. Because you don't fail until you give up. I mean, you may face setbacks and you may have a quote-unquote failure. But you don't truly fail until you give up. And so you have to be willing to steel yourself for all of the things you're going to have to do to achieve the goal that you set for yourself. Despite the setbacks, despite the pain, despite the suffering. Because life is suffering. You know, I used to disagree with Dr. Peterson when he said the tragedy of life, and to a certain extent, I still disagree with him. I don't think life is a tragedy, but I do think life is suffering. But if you aim for success, you give your life meaning. You give meaning to the suffering that you have to endure. And if you can do that, you're already 5 steps ahead of everybody else. Because to a lot of people, they just do the day in, day out grind and they don't have any goals. There's no meaning to it. There's no reason behind it. Like, they kind of have an amorphous idea of what they want life to be, but they don't have goals. They don't have a purpose. Me, I have a purpose. Part of that purpose is to inspire you to get your own purpose. Hopefully, I'm achieving that purpose. And if I'm not achieving that purpose, maybe I will in the future, because you're going to keep hearing me hammer on you about it until you either A, find your ass a purpose, or B, close the window. And stop listening to my channel. I don't want you to stop listening to my channel. But in order for it to do you any good, you have to take action. There is no shortage of success when you go out there and look for success. And don't expect that shit to fall in your lap. You gotta work for that. You build it from the ground up. I use architecture metaphors a lot because I'm a Freemason. Well, here's your architecture metaphor. You start with a foundation, you pour the concrete. That's getting the education you need to do what it is that you are looking to do. And I'm not necessarily talking college. It could be trade school. It could be online education. It might not even cost you money. It might be finding someone to teach you. It might be finding a mentor. Everyone should have a mentor anyway. And then you start to build. You build on that foundation. You build the superstructure. You frame it out. And that's your job. That's getting your money straight. And then brick by brick. Why would I aim for something that's not standing right next to me? But wow, I almost called Mindark Bethesda. That's pretty terrible of me. I'm sorry, Mindark. If Ludius does not visit me for a week, I deserve it after that one. You get your money together. That's the frame. And then you build it brick by brick. Because the house you build can't just be a framed house. It can't be made out of stick. It can't be made out of boards. It has to be made out of bricks. Bricks and mortar will put your life together rock solid so you'll never have it fall down. That's what success is. It's your metaphorical house built out of bricks and mortar. Because nothing is going to tear that house down. Building it out of any less, you're putting yourself at risk. But if you do the work, because let's face it, laying bricks is a hell of a lot more labor intensive than it is building a house with boards and drywall. 2x8s and drywall are not as powerful, are not as strong as brick. If you build it with brick, it will stand for generations. You just have to reach out and take it and be willing to put the grind in, put the work in, to lay the bricks and lay the mortar. And I know I'm like really layering. Wow, that's a pretty bad pun. I'm really layering it heavily here. But seriously, build your life like a brick building. And when you see setbacks, accept the fact that they happen and do it again. Figure out what went wrong and keep trying. Because when you look back on your life when you're 90 years old, and I firmly believe that the majority of people watching this channel will make it to 90. Our actuarial life tables have gotten really lengthy lately. I want you to look back on your life and say, damn, look what I built. Not what did I do with my life. I should have listened to Julian. What are you building for your significant other, your spouse, for your children, for your grandchildren? And if you are planning on having children, that's fine. What are you building for your interpersonal relationships? Because believe it or not, the more successful you are, the more successful those around you will become. You know, there's an old saying, if you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. If the people around you don't give a shit, you're not going to give a shit either. If the people around you do give a shit, you are going to likely be someone who gives a shit. If they see you building your own life, they are going to do one of two things. They're going to rise up and start to fix their lives, and you will all rise up together, which is what should happen. Or they're going to hate the fact that you're putting the work in on yourself. And at that point, they're going to make one of two choices. They're either going to move on, in which case you didn't need them in your life anyway, or they're going to try to pull you down. And if they try to pull you down, that's when you walk away. Because you need to know what you want in life, and you have to be willing to take it. And if they've given up on their goals, if they've given up on their future, if they've given up on their success, and at the very least aren't willing to get out of your way, then they're poisonous. That's a toxic friendship. And I've met plenty of them, and I've had plenty of them in my life. Because there are plenty of people out there who will say, how dare you want to be better when I can't be better because I don't want to put the work in. And I hate to say it, but there are plenty of people out there like that. I don't understand how people can live like that, but they do. It's not just, I don't want to put the effort in to be successful. It's, I don't want to put the effort in to be successful, so how dare you? And honestly, fuck those people. You know what? That bears repeating. If you've come across someone who's of the attitude that they don't want to put the effort in, so how dare you? Fuck those people. Cut them out of your life with a razor. Not literally. That's a metaphor. Before anyone goes off the deep end there. 2020 is enough of a 2020 as it is. But they aren't worth your time. They aren't worth your energy. Because they've given up on themselves. And as a consequence, they've decided that no one else should be able to achieve anything. And that is not a good place to be, my friends. Not in the slightest. Boy, we've gotten pretty well out into the jungle. We're not even half a kilometer out. Look at that. You know, it's funny. I don't use the custom waypoint thing very often when I'm not flying. But it occurs to me just how... what tools you can use to do this. So yeah, that's all I got. You know, it's important that you decide what you want out of life and you go and take it. It's important that you be willing to sacrifice what it takes to what you need to sacrifice in order to achieve what it is you want to achieve. Hopefully that does not mean sacrificing friendships. Hopefully that does not mean sacrificing too much of your time. But you know what? At some point, it's going to mean just that. You know, I think about the difference between who I was 15 years ago, or even 10, and who I am now, and it's like night and fucking day. And I know 10 years from now, I'm gonna look back on myself today and think I was an idiot. But at least I was an idiot looking in the right direction. What are you going to think about yourself when you start, you know, when you look back on life 10, 15, 20 years from now? That's what it's about. Will you be able to take pride in yourself? Or will you look back and just be ashamed? Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. As always, guys, I appreciate the support. Hope I've inspired you. See you in the next one.